Hi everybody, here's another cooking video. This time it's for rice pilaf. Rice pilaf is a great way to make rice and make it a bit more nourishing. It has some broth in it and some vegetables, which are always onion, but then you can add other things to it. And I'm sending you a PDF through email and also this YouTube, so you can check it out. All right, let's get started. So the first thing we have to do is chop an onion. So if you remember how to chop an onion, we take off the tip, which I've already done here, and the root end, just a little bit of it, and make sure to get it off your board so that it doesn't get mixed with the good stuff. Then cut it tip to core, or core to tip, so this way, and then peel it. Now sometimes you take off the first layer of the onion because it's a bit fibrous and might have a little bit of the tough peel in it. Make sure you get it off the board. Well, I just use my fingers to do this. Some people might use a paring knife like that. Okay, so the root end is what holds the onion together. So you're going to slit the onion from the tip, leaving the core to hold it together. So you use the tip of your knife. This is the way to grip the knife, as you remember. Okay, that's the French knife. If you don't have a French knife at home, it's fine. You can use a nice little paring knife. I'll do that just to demonstrate. And this might even be easier for you. So you're just going to slit the onion about the dimension of a pea, but I'm not letting the tip go all the way through like that. I'm just inserting it in. Okay. And you want to be careful of your fingers. And I'll do it with the other one as well. So that's the root end, so I'm going to face that away from me and just simply slit the onion. And then you're going to I'm going to switch to this knife because it's easier. You're just going to go in the same dimension, about the width of a pea, and cut it through. Okay, and then I tip that over when it gets to the end. It's a little more stable. Bring it back up. Now this part isn't slit, so I just chop it up at the end. Okay, and same thing. Okay, so there's your chopped onion, and we're going to saute it in a saucepan. We're going to put in this case I'm using olive oil. So 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. You can use butter. In this case I'm using olive oil, so I'm putting that in the pot. Okay. Make sure it coats the bottom. If you're using butter, you'd let it melt. And then I'm going to put this in the pot. And you want to cook it not real high, because you don't want it to brown. Well, I'm stirring this to coat the onions with the oil or the butter. And you don't need to stir it constantly. I'm going to turn this up a bit. Just need to get the onions transparent and a little bit limp. So, okay, so I have here 2 cups of rice, which I rinsed under running water for a minute or 2. It's in a strainer, as you can see, and there's no need to dry the rice. You want to get the surface starch off of it. So that's why you rinse it. It'll come out better. And then you want to have, here I have my salt nearby. And I have my broth. In this case I used a base, which like a bouillon cube or you can buy the, I forget what it's called. It's in a jar and it's like a paste. And you can use chicken stock base or beef base. In this case, I used vegetable base, okay? And I just dissolved it in the water, in the hot water. So for 2 cups of rice, I'm going to turn this up a bit more, it's a little wimpy. We used 3.5 cups of broth. Okay. Now, if you don't have broth, you can use water. It's perfectly fine. You can use water, but the onion and the water and salt and pepper are the things you really need in this. I've put in optional ingredients which make it a lot better, and you can use frozen vegetables. In this case, I'm going to be putting in some peas, 2/3 of a cup, and I don't have any frozen mixed vegetables, so I cut up some celery and parsley. Here I have spice, I have turmeric and bay leaf, and I'm going to be measuring out, oh, this is not the right, some thyme leaf to go in, and that's going to go in when I put the broth in, after the onions have cooked for a little bit. So they're beginning to become translucent here. That looks pretty good. Here, I'll tilt the pot, maybe you can see. Okay. But you see they're not cooking very fast. They're cooking a little bit slow. And that's fine. We just want them translucent. Okay, so we have our rice, and we're waiting for our onions. So other things you can put into your rice pilaf, you can put in some diced mushrooms, fresh mushrooms. As I said, frozen mixed vegetables and or frozen peas. Chopped parsley is great. I have the turmeric is will make it yellow rice, which is very attractive, and with the bright green of the peas, it's going to look great, very appetizing. And the other thing about turmeric is it's actually very good for you. It's an what they call an anti-inflammatory, and it's actually, people take it in pill form. If you have aches and pains, it helps with that if you take it daily. And black pepper helps activate that compound in turmeric. That's the anti-inflammatory. So there's 2 good reasons to use it. It has a very mild taste. It almost has no taste. It has a mild, pleasant taste. You can kind of taste it, but with everything else in here, it's almost like you can't taste it. So it just turns the rice an attractive yellow color. Okay, so my onions look good now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my rice in, and I'm going to coat the rice with the oil and the onions and toast the rice for a couple of minutes. Okay, so the pan is really cooled off because the rice was wet from cold water, and it just cools the pan down. So I'm just going to let it sit for a minute. So one of the things you want for this recipe is a sauce pot that has a nice tight fitting lid. And it's better not to open the pot while the rice is cooking. Once you bring the broth to a boil, when I add the broth and the other things. I'm going to bring it to a boil, then turn it down to a simmer, and simmer it for about 18 minutes, and I'm not going to open the pot, okay? So that's important because the steam, the water, the rice will absorb the water, and then the steam continues to cook it and soften the rice. Now, I don't like using too much water in my rice because if you use too much water, the rice becomes mushy. What I like is when you have nice separate grains of rice, it has a nice texture, it's pleasant to eat, but it's not crunchy, of course. It's soft enough. All right, so we've toasted the rice a bit, and what I'm going to do is just going to stir this broth to make sure I'm going to put in my broth. Okay, so there's my broth. And I'm going to add my optional ingredients now. I'm going to add my turmeric and bay leaf. I'm going to stir that in. I'm going to add my black pepper, a little less than 1 teaspoon, because I like pepper. And I need 1 teaspoon of salt. So I'm going to measure my salt. 1 teaspoon goes in. And I'm going to add my frozen peas. And I'm going to add, this is parsley and carrot and a little bit of celery. So that's going to make it really tasty. And the vegetables are going to cook in the broth with the rice. Now I'm going to add my thyme leaf. One teaspoon. And I might just rub that a little to activate the taste. That goes in. And I'm going to bring this to a boil. So as I said, you're going to bring it to a boil and then reduce the heat down so that it's simmering, and you're going to cover it and cook it for 18 minutes at a very low temperature so it's barely simmering. That's the way to get good rice. So, that's about it, folks. All I'm going to do is bring this to a boil, and I'm going to put a lid on it right now to help it come to a boil, but then I'm going to open it up just to check and turn it down to a simmer and check that it's at a very low simmer, and then cover it up and not open the pot for 18 minutes. When the rice is done, and I'm not going to show this in the video, this is going to be kind of the end of the video, I'm going to open the pot and fluff the rice with a fork so that it's not compacted, it's nice and fluffy. Now you can serve this with a meat course as part of a dinner. If you put enough things in it, it's almost like an entree. You could actually put some diced meat in and cook that in as well. You could also sprinkle Parmesan cheese on top when it's done for an Italian touch. That's quite nice. Okay, so that's about it. I'm sending you the PDF of the recipe, and I hope you'll all try it. Now remember, if you don't have the optional ingredients, you don't need them. All you really need is the rice, the onion, the butter or oil, the salt, and the pepper. And you can add, if you have leaf thyme, you can just add the thyme to that. You can add, and you can use water if you don't have the broth. But you can add the broth, you can put the broth in instead of water, and you can do any combination of the optional ingredients. The optional ingredients are going to make it much better, but it's fine if you just make it plain with the onion, the water, salt and pepper, and rice. Okay, that's about it. Signing off. I hope you all are well and staying safe. This is Jesse signing off for culinary class. Bye, everybody.